Hi guys, it's Zippy here again at the Wicked Squirrel Urban Research Farm. And I want to talk to you about the importance of approach. In particular, I want to talk to you about, and I want to answer the question, how should we approach a piece of property? How should we approach the nature that's there, that we want to bring there? How should we approach nature in general? And the answer to that question is with ignorance and with an open heart and open ears to hear and listen. So when I talk about reconnecting with nature, I'm talking about actually having a two-way relationship with nature in which nature can communicate to you. Now, what kind of hippie nonsense am I bringing here? Well, this doesn't have to be really deep and really profound. It can be, but it can be very simple. For instance, when you're making a compost pile, there's lots of good rules. There's lots of good guidelines for making compost. There's lots of different ways to do it too. So what if instead of assuming that we know everything that there is to know about compost, or even that you or I know everything there is to know about compost, what if we just made several small piles with variations, slight variations on each one, and just pay careful attention to the response? And hearing from nature, receiving communications from nature can be just this simple, because once you pay careful attention to the response, you're going to know what works best in that exact spot for you, with your exact climate, your exact community of microbes in the soil, etc. And so, but just by making a couple of compost piles and listening carefully to the response, you can say, well, does she like it better when I do this, or when I do this? Or does she like it better when I do this while I do this? And pay careful attention to the response. And you can see very quickly how this does become a relationship, or at least analogous to a relationship in some ways. And so, for instance, one example would be the compost piles, but I try to do this with everything, with the seeds I'm planting. What kind of beans are gonna grow best here? I have no idea. So I'll plant 5 or 6 different kinds of beans if I can, and then by listening carefully to the response, I can let those beans, those exact beans, and this place tell me what kind of beans it most wants to grow. So this approach can be applied to almost anything, and it actually should be applied to everything we do. And it should even be applied to the things that, not only judging our own changes and the effects they've had, but also also examining what's here when we start. So for instance, when we start shaping the land, we need to have this approach. We need to look around at what's already here. How's it doing? What's working? What's not working? How on earth are you going to know that? There's only one way. You have to ask the living things that are already here. Now again, this may sound like hippie nonsense, but just when you're asking the plants, look at them carefully. Are they thriving? Are they healthy? Is there heavy pest pressure? What's their color? Are they wilted? How many of them are there? When you start asking these simple questions, very quickly you begin to see and understand what's already there. So for instance, I was not so good at this when I started here, and if you can see behind me on this side, I started digging deeply down at the bottom back of this property to prepare for a vegetable bed. And as I started working my way across, I started running into more and more tree roots, predominantly from this giant silver maple here. And I'm going to try and give you a shot of this tree. It's really massive. It's I call this my uncle the silver maple. It's difficult to estimate the age, but in any case, as I was digging along, I came to some roots, probably from this tree coming this direction, and they were just small. I just chopped it off and kept going. And I came to another root, and I chopped it off, and I kept going. And then I came to another root and I thought to myself, these are not big roots, this is probably not serious, but I like trees. And here I am just chopping the fingers or toes, I suppose, off this giant. And for what? As a newcomer here, I'm a newcomer here, just planting a few carrots. It's not worth it for a tree like this. So eventually I decided to show a little respect and not dig any further this direction, and instead start building up soil on top of the roots and on top of what was already there. And what I quickly discovered was, using the methods I described on the site here, you can build soil so fast that there was really no reason to dig down and damage those roots at all. So please apply this approach, accept your own ignorance, and seek to learn from the other living things around you. You know, a plant with its roots in the soil has much more knowledge of the soil in one sense than you or I do, so look at them closely, pay attention, see what you can learn, and please take this approach of being gentle, being careful, first observing, first listening, accepting our ignorance, and thereby working with it. So this is how to begin.